ישמרני, כי ישמר השבת את ישמרני, אותי לעולמי בינו וביני, אותי לעולמי בינו וביני. Page 129. כי ישמר השבת את ישמרני, כי ישמר השבת את ישמרני, אותי לעולמי עד בינו וביני, אותי לעולמי עד בינו וביני.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Whether
Shabbat
you are here in our sanctuary, on Zoom, Facebook, or YouTube, we are so glad you have chosen to celebrate Shabbat with us. I want you to take a moment to imagine yourself in a storybook, surrounded by all the beautiful music that you know, and some that you don't even know yet. That could be what Shabbat is for us. A place different from all the rest of the days of the week. Yes, tomorrow night we are going to be enjoying our children's theater, our young people's theater, our not so young people's theater, with a wonderful production called Imagine. But in the meantime, we have an opportunity to take time off from the rest of the week to immerse ourselves, to re-sole our shoes and ourselves, and really enjoy all that Shabbat and our Judaism has to offer. And so we begin by bringing light into our rooms, into our souls, with the lighting of our Shabbat candles. And I would like to invite Susan Marks to kindle the lights of Shabbat as we join together in the blessing. Page 120.
B'tzivanu.
Lahadagner Shel Shabbat. Amen.
Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. We continue with Lechu Neranena, page 130.
Lechu neranena l'Adonai, nari al netzur yishenu, nekadma fanav betoda bizmirot, nari alo nekadma fanav betoda bizmirot, nari alo. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai baruchu shemo, basru miyom leyom yeshuato, sabru v'goyim kevodo, bechol amim niflatav. Haylai, 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 I lie, I lie, 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 ya lie, ya lie, 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 ya lie, ya lie, lie.
Sing praises to Adonai, Zamru Ladonai, Bechinor with a lyre, with melodious song, page 134.
Zamru l'Adonai bechinor, bechinor v'kol zimra, b'chatzotrot v'kol shofar, hariyu lifnei hamelech Adonai. Yiram hayamom lo, tevel veyoshveva, hayda neharot, imcha uchaf, hav yachad, harim yeraneinu, lifnei Adonai kiva. Lishpot haaretz, yishpot tevel betzedek, ve'amim b'meisharim. Yiram hayamom lo, tevel ve'yoshveva, Haidai neharot, imcha uchaf, hav yachad, harim yeraneinu, hav yachad, harim yeraneinu.
The Psalms provide such a beautiful backdrop for our celebration of Shabbat. And so we turn to Psalm 29, Mizmor LeDavid, on page 136.
Mizmor LeDavid, havu l'Adonai b'nei elim. Mizmor LeDavid, havu l'Adonai b'nei elim. Havu l'Adonai kavod ba'oz, havu l'Adonai kavod shemo. Havu l'Adonai kavod ba'oz, havu l'Adonai kavod shemo. Ay, ay, lay, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la. Ay, ya lay, ya la 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 la, ay, ya la la la, ya la la la. Adonaios, lemo yiten, Adonai yevarech, et amo v'shalom. Adonaios, lemo yiten, Adonai yevarech, et amo v'shalom.
We transport ourselves to the north of Israel to a city called Tzfat for Lecha Dodi, a beautiful artists' colony where this song became part of our tradition, composed by Shlomo Halevi Alkabetz, who lived in the 16th century. We will sing verses 1, 2, 5, 6, and when we get to the last verse, we will rise and face the door as if to welcome the Shabbat bride.
Lecha dodi likrat kahala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kahala, b'nei Shabbat נקבלה. שמות וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, שמו לתפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונכה, כי היא מקור הברכה. מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, בני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי. אורי, אורי, שתדברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לא תבושי ולא תקמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי. בך יחסו עניי עמי, ונבנתה יראת הילה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, בני שבת נקבלה. בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה. תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, בני שבת נקבלה.
While you're still standing, I invite you to take a moment and say Shabbat Shalom to someone who's around you, someone you may not know yet, a future friend.
Shabbat Shalom.
There you go.
Shabbat Shalom, Tegan and Autry. It's good to see you both here. Welcome.
While we're doing this, let me pull this up.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That is helpful. Thank you.
There we go. I just had to fix the podium while we were doing that. And now you may be seated. Thank you. Feels good to get to know people, our family. We now turn to one more psalm before our Arvit evening service, Mizmor Shir, Psalm 92 on page 140.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות. עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בכינור. צדיק כתמר יפרח, כארז בלבנון יזכה. שתולים בבית אדוני, בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו. עוד ינובון בשיבה, דשאים ורעננים יהיו. להגיד כי ישר אדוני, צורי ולא עוולת הבון.
We continue with the Chatzi Kaddish, separating Kabbalat Shabbat from Arvit, on page 144.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
בעלמא דברך ירתה וימליך מלכותה. בחייכון וביומכון ובחייתך בית ישראל. בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעלמי המעיין. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל. שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה. תושבחתה ונחמתה, תאמירן בעלמא ואמרו amen.
Entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time. Even at unlikely times and through unlikely places, there is no place on earth without the presence. We continue with our call to worship, the Baruch Hu, page 146.
And since we face Israel and not the ark, we still face this way, even though there's mushrooms. It's okay. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach
Leolam Va'ed.
You may be seated. On page 149, we read in the middle of the page together, "This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim." As we approach the Shema, we think about the love that we experience in our world, that between human to human, and then what we also experience between ourselves and that which is bigger than ourselves. We talk about eternal love. What does eternity actually mean? And how do we reach God through all eternity? When we think about the possibilities of celebrating Shabbat, of entering this time of imagining, of conquering our own fears, and taking that step forward. We take a challenge, we take a risk, but we also know that it's ours to take. And so we think about that eternal love and take a step towards it. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel.
Amen.
We continue with the Shema on page 152.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
We continue on page 154 with the continuation of Shema, starting with Ve'ahavta.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
We introduce the Micha Mocha with a reading on page 159. Please join me. Sing the song of men and women, joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come, the song of a land once ravaged by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home, to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, a song of peace.
מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, הלילה מלכותך רבנך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי אנו ואמרו, אדוני וימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
Grant, O Eternal, that we may lie down in peace and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. We sing together the Hashkivenu, leading us from feeling protected during our night sleep to Vishamru, God commanding us to guard and keep Shabbat. Page 160 and 162.
ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ברוך אתה אדוני הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים, אמן. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, את הארץ. וביום השביעי, וביום השביעי, שבת וינפש.
We turn to the Amidah, beginning with our meditation, our Kavanah, on page 164. I invite you to rise if you are able.
אדוני שפתי תפתח, ופי יגיד, ופי יגיד תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may, that my mouth may declare your praise.
We continue silently through page 180. Yehiu leratzoni merifi vehegion libi lefanecha, Adonai tzuri v'goali. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, imru amen.
Amen.
May the one who makes peace in the high heavens make peace for us, for all Israel, and all who inhabit the earth. Amen.
Amen.
We end our tefillah with the words of the Mishaberach, a prayer asking for healing of our bodies, our souls, those suffering from addictions, those in mourning. If there is someone whose name you would like to mention, or if you are on Zoom, if you'd like to put their names in the chat box, we'd be happy to bring them into our midst. If I go around the room, please mention someone's name. Aiden?
Megan Firestone, Maria Kazin, and Gerald Levy, and Jeff Bonham.
Marla Kaysen.
We also add to those names the names of Alan Boyarsky, Anita Muchnikov, Barbara Bevins, Barbara Rothbart, Dale Scully, David Trackman, Edward Schechter, Elaine Solomon, Evelyn Ma, Florence Nagler, Jerry Feldman, Henry Cohen, Janet Capps, Janet White, Jerry Harmon, Karen Guth, Marlene Pfaff, Michael Hennig, Mike Kokos, Mindy Gladstein, Peter Gwazdoff, Rabbi Manuel Ben David, Rose Kaufman, Sheldon Weisbuck, Shirley Zaidman, Zach Pesner, and Francia Yera. For those whose names were mentioned and those we hold in our hearts, we add the words of the Mishaberach on page 371.
Mishaberach avotenu mekor habracha ve'imotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha la'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We wish all of them a speedy and complete recovery of refuah shlema. It is now my pleasure to invite to the bima Rabbi Mati Kirschenbaum for our Devar Torah. And do you need my microphone? You will have a mic. Up there he be. Shabbat Shalom.
Can you hear me? I think you can. IKEA to open Beersheba store next month. This headline caught my attention in January 2018 during the Israel year of my rabbinical studies. Just like all those who live in Israel permanently or
just for a year. I followed the media religiously, hoping to keep up with ever-changing reality of Israeli and Middle Eastern politics. Relieved that there was no bad news, I read on. IKEA Israel CEO Shuki Koblenz said, I quote, "We are excited ahead of the opening of our 4th store in Beersheba, the capital of Israel's south. It's another step in implementing IKEA's vision of making daily life better for people as much as possible." He added, "We believe that the new store will lead to the creation of opportunities in the development of commerce and employment in the city." You probably wonder why I remember this piece of local news more than 5 years later. Well, it is because every year, also in winter, we read a Torah portion which unfailingly brings IKEA, and by extension, this story, to my mind. This portion is this week's parasha, Truma. In order to explain why the IKEA Association, let me read you a few of its verses. I quote, "They shall make an ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high. Overlay it with pure gold. Overlay it inside and out, and make upon it a gold molding round about. Cast 4 gold rings for it, to be attached to its 4 feet, 2 rings on one of its side walls and 2 on the other. Make poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold. Then insert the poles into the rings on the side walls of the ark for carrying the ark." Exodus 25, verses 10 to 14. This detailed instruction goes on for verses upon verses. For those among us who, like me, are not architects, engineers, or builders, it is simply confusing. Each year, reading it, I wish the Torah had illustrations, like this beautiful set behind me. They, like the IKEA instructions, would show us step by step where we are in the construction process. Because our parasha is so technical, we tend to focus on 2 verses that do not require a craftsman expertise to comprehend. And these verses are, and you've heard them probably many, many times. "Tell the Israelites to bring me an offering. You are to receive the offering for me from everyone whose heart prompts them to give. Then have them make a sanctuary for me, and I will dwell among them." Sounds familiar, right? Make me a sanctuary and shall dwell among you. Yes, I think we've heard these verses before. 2 midrashim, rabbinic tales filling the gaps in biblical stories, describe the response of the people of Israel to God's instruction. One midrash teaches us that collectively, Israelites donated more precious materials than the construction of the sanctuary required. Another states that even though they were under no compulsion to give, each and every Israelite, men and women alike, voluntarily shared a portion of their wealth. These rabbinic stories, rather than the rest of our Torah portion, became the lens through which we read the story of this communal effort to build a sanctuary for God, worthy of God. Those whose hearts were prompted to give came to be seen as role models for generous charity giving, Judaism's original philanthropists. In turn, the image of community-wide participation in building a sanctuary had an equally important legacy. It fostered the Jewish belief that, as individuals, we can bring about God's presence when we unite our efforts to achieve a shared goal. This shared goal, worthy goal, the sanctuary where God's presence dwells, meant different things for space and time. For many communities, construction of an imposing brick and mortar sanctuary met this goal, was the goal. Impressive temples erected in America and Europe in the late 19th century, the ones that look like cathedrals, come to mind. They were supposed to order congregants into feeling the divine presence. Today, we're more likely to think that a place where God dwells is a community where everyone is included, where every individual is celebrated for who they are. Some interpret this divine sanctuary even more broadly. For them, it stands for a just and inclusive society. Personally, I think that all these interpretations are justified. I'm convinced that each of us has their own understanding of divine presence. Correspondingly, our views on a place or a set of circumstances where it can be found should differ as well. As a rabbi, I find it extremely rewarding when my congregants explore these issues and develop their own viewpoints. They find their own answers to where the divine presence is or in whom it dwells. Yet, I believe that when we concentrate solely on finding modern equivalents of biblical sanctuary, we miss out on an important message conveyed in the IKEA-style sections of this week's portion. Interestingly, this message is encoded, or shall we say hidden, in these sections' language and structure, rather than in the overt meaning of its words. Martin Buber, Austrian-Israeli philosopher and Torah scholar, points out that the sections of our portion which deal with the construction of the sanctuary, aka the IKEA sections, mirror the first creation story found in Genesis chapter 1, both in their language and structure. Buber observes that we can distinguish 4 stages of both of these stories, each of which is defined by a distinctive word. These are making, and here in the Genesis story we have, and on the day A, God made B, six times over, and in this parasha, you shall make me a sanctuary. So making, first stage. Then finishing, and the heaven and the earth were finished in the Genesis story, and thus was finished all the work of the tabernacle in our parasha. Noticing, and God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And in our parasha, and Moses saw all the work, and behold, they had done it. And then finally, the last 4th stage, blessing. And God blessed the 7th day and made it holy. And then in our parasha, as the Eternal had commanded, even so had they done it, and Moses blessed them. Buber's observation made me think about the way we act today when we engage in projects that are supposed to improve the world around us, to create a sanctuary for divine presence to dwell. Sometimes, more often than we realize, we are so busy getting things done that we never get to Buber's point 3, noticing where we are in the process. At other times, even when we remember to review, or in biblical terms, to see our projects, we don't leave ourselves time to behold them, to understand how they fit within the bigger picture of our lives. Finally, even if we take stock of our accomplishments, we often don't connect them to values that motivate us to persevere. Moses' instructions might sound, they do sound like an IKEA manual. Still, they teach us a key lesson about our efforts to build a better world. Torah teaches us that prowess and persistence do not suffice to bring about lasting change. In order to achieve it, we must follow God and Moses' example by beholding and blessing our efforts. In our words, Parashat Truma calls upon us to act with insight and intentionality. Its structure, which mirrors the creation story, gives us a hint as to where we can find inspiration to do that. It suggests that we can invite divine presence into our existence when, like God, we take time off to behold and to bless. Shabbat is a perfect opportunity to do just that. Lecha Dodi, sung by us just moments ago, expresses this sentiment when it calls us to shamor, to keep, or we can also say intentionally celebrate, and zahor, remember or see the Shabbat. These two values, insight and intentionality, are also expressed and represented by two candles we have just lit. This Shabbat, I wish us all the opportunity to simply be, to behold, and to bless. I am sure that spending this Shabbat at TBT will help to build us all up. May we channel the divine presence that we find here into building God's sanctuaries in our lives in the week to come. Shabbat Shalom.
Yashikoah. A lot to think about. We continue our service with Aleinu as we open the Ark and rise, page 586.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. There is somebody you are remembering this week who is if you're in the Shiva period, I invite you to rise and mention your loved ones' names. thinking of the Rose family who laid to rest their husband and father, Jack, today. If you're in the Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning, I invite you to rise and mention your loved ones' names. If you're in the first year of mourning, I invite you to rise and share your loved ones' names.
Jonathan Kaysen.
If you are remembering a loved one during a yort site, I invite you to rise and share your loved ones' names. Aiden?
Joan Friedman for first year of mourning, Jonathan Kazin for first year of mourning, and Freda Bonham.
Thank you. We also remember the yort sites of Marion Schneider, Aaron Herman, Marion Schneider, Edward Nannis, Alex Pollock, Hubert Robbins, Galena Gelfer, Howard Block, Marsha Levin, Ruth Shaw, Robert Deary, Sheldon Klasky, and Sandy Rosenthal. If it is your tradition to rise, I invite you to do so. Join our mourners as they lead us in the Kaddish on page 598.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divarach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'almei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitale v'yithalal shemei dekudesha brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min Shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen.
May the one who sends peace send peace to all who mourn, and comfort to all who are bereaved among us, and we say, Amen. You may be seated. Well, we have finally come to the point on our calendar when Imagine becomes reality. And tomorrow night and Sunday, we will be celebrating our youth with the wonderful production that is created and brought to us by producer and director Elizabeth Kent. We have about 15, 16, almost
Somewhere
20
in that zone. Yeah,
young people
that's right.
participating in this production, some who will look very familiar to you, some who are others' grandchildren, children, friends, relatives, countrymen. And so if you have not yet purchased your tickets, it's not too late to do so, because we have tomorrow night's performance as well as Sunday matinee and evening performance. We invite you to join us to celebrate our children. There is also a raffle to help support this program because, as you can see, this is a pretty professional program. So we invite you to do that. We've got Purim coming up. We will be serving Hamantashen on March 8th after our 5:30 Megillah of Oz themed Purim celebration. We have an introductory class to introduce us to the Book of Esther, led by Rabbi Daniel, which will take place on March 2nd at 1 p.m. on Zoom, so you don't have to leave the house. Take a late lunch if you're at work and tune in. On the attempted canceling of the Book of Esther. Sounds intriguing, and so we invite you to that. We were talking a little bit ago about how to engage our teens and And Rabbi Mati was talking a little bit about where do we find God? Well, in this case, we find God in a boba restaurant. And it was like your bar mitzvah program. We have a new program that Rabbi Daniel is doing with our teens called Tea, Teens, and Torah, where we buy the kids boba drinks and they meet with Rabbi Daniel to talk about teen-related issues. And the dates are listed in the tidbits. Please take a look and join him. The boba place is just down on Commonwealth and Lemon. It's very close to us here. And on the heels of Purim comes Passover. So we have our annual Temple Seder on the second night of Passover, Pesach, which will be April 6th. Not too early to start thinking about where you're getting your matzah and how you can join us for Pesach. I think, is that it? Men's Club, sister?
April 5th, we also, Beth and Met has their Seder, and they want to come do 2 nights. So anyone who wants to do 2 nights, they're welcome to come here on the 6th. If they make their reservation, we can go to Beth and Met on the 5th. People want to do 2 Seders.
Exactly. And so we've got lots of holiday celebrations coming up. And in the meantime, Gabrielle is going to unwrap the yain and the meats, the wine and the juice. We have grape juice. And Religious Practices co-VP Mark Filowitz is going to help distribute as we join to celebrate Shabbat with the fruit of the vine, doing Kiddush. Thank you very much. And so we join Gabrielle in Kiddush, page 122.
Yes.
Got it right.
We'll give them a second to get
Right.
there.
And if it is your tradition to rise for Kiddush, you may do that.
Yes. We are hanging. We are surely hanging.
And don't forget to join us after services for our oneg in the social hall. Can't forget the oneg.
What do we have for the
sponsored,
oneg?
Sponsored by members of the rabbinic search team, right? What did you bake, Mitch? Talk to Sarah. Yeah. Tomorrow, join us we have an extended Kiddush luncheon featuring homemade challah by yours truly and enchilada casserole with rice and beans
Who
and
can
salad
ask for
made by
more?
Sarah. I'll make the rice. Okay, everybody have their
Yes.
Kiddush fixins?
Wonderful.
Okay.
ויער ויבוקר יום השישי, ויחו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויכל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו, ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה וראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל עמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת לחיים.
For our closing song, we were going to do one song. I think we changed our minds.
We found something way
We
more.
found something
like,
way more
on
relevant.
theme.
Right.
Yeah.
So please join Gabrielle and me for our closing song.
ועשו לי מקדש ושכנתי בתוכם ואנחנו נברך מעתה ועד עולם. Oh God, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you.
La 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 la
Adonai,
la 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 la. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless us and keep us. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May God's face shine upon us and be gracious unto us. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lachem shalom. May God's face shine upon us and grant us the greatest of all gifts, the gift of peace. Shabbat shalom.
Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom, friends on Zoom.